My name's Kenny, and I'm recovering from alcohol, drugs, pornography, you know. You name it, it fits. You know. And, it's really good to be here. I can't think of any place I'd rather be on my birthday than right here sharing my my experience, strength, and hope. And I love Roxy, and she's had a crush on her for years. But anyway, you got that right. Okay. Well, I write songs, and I write songs about recovery, and I'm a pastor, so I'm a Christian. I'll just get that right out in front right now, and I love what I do, and I go into prisons all the time, and I share with the guys, and the more, and it's more or less become my life to work with inmates, and get in there with them and talk to them and help them out any way I can. As a matter of fact, when I get back to Florida next Sunday or in a couple of weeks, I'll be in 2 women's prisons in Florida doing programs in there. I go all over the country and do programs, but I'm getting older, so I kind of have to slow down a little bit. But this is a song that sometimes I take songs and I change a few words to them, Day after day, I was more confused, living my life in the pouring rain. Life was a game I'm starting to lose. I was feeling the shame, I was feeling the pain. Well, give me some peace, Lord, and free my soul. I wanna get lost while you take control and drift away. Well, give me some peace, Lord, and free my soul. I wanna get lost while you take control and drift away. Most of my life I've been wasting time. Never understood the things I do. The world outside got so unkind. Now I'm counting on you to carry me through. Oh, give me some peace, Lord, and free my soul. I wanna get lost while you take control and drift away. Sing with me if you wanna. Well, give me some peace, Lord, free my soul. I wanna get lost, want to take control and drift away. Now my soul is free, and it's your melody that moves me. When I'm feeling blue, the Holy Spirit's there to soothe me. Thanks for the love that you give on me. I want you to know I'll be singing your song with rhythm and rhyme and harmony. While you help me along, making me strong. Oh, give me some peace, Lord, and free my soul. I want to get lost while you take control and drift away. Come on. Oh, give me some peace, Lord, and free my soul. I want to get lost while you take control and drift away. Let's do it one more time. Oh, give me some peace, Lord, and free my soul. I want to get lost while you take control and drift away. Oh, drift away. I like Thank you. Well, I told you I was a pastor, right? And so I had a guy call me up one time, and his name's Murph the Surf. And as a matter of fact, there's on MGM Plus. Have you seen that? It's about Murph the Surf. He's a good buddy of mine. He died, but he called me one time and he says, "Hey, you want to go into prisons?" And I went, "No." He says, "Well, we'll pay you $500 and put you up in a hotel." And I said, "Okay, what time you want me there?" So I went to this prison down in El Centro. That was the first prison I went to down. Calipatria, yeah. And I was scared out of my mind. I walked in there, and they had a flatbed trailer set out with a microphone on it. And Murph's getting ready to introduce me, and I'm standing back there with my guitar, and there's about 400 or 500 inmates out there standing in front of this trailer. He comes back and says, "What are you going to sing?" And I said, "I guess Amazing Grace." He said, "No, I don't think so." He says, "You know any good country songs?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Well, they like country. These guys will like country." He says, "You know any Johnny Cash?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Johnny Cash, they really like Johnny Cash." So the first song I ever sang in a prison went like this. Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. Well, I hear the train come rolling round the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when, but I'm stuck in prison. Time keeps dragging on. Luddy. Well, that train keeps rolling on down to San Antonio. Well, I gotta tell you, those guys went crazy, man. They loved it. About that time, a couple of them yelled out, "Waylon and Willie!" Cowboys ain't easy to love, harder to hold. They'd rather give you a song than diamonds of gold. Long storm about the coast, and over the line, each and I begin to do bad. Well, if you don't understand him, you won't die young. It probably just right away. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars and drive old trucks. Make them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. They'll never stay home and they're always alone. Even someone they love. Well, I went over so good, I got kind of cocky. I said, "Where y'all want me to go now?" So they took me down to this basketball pavilion, and there was about 100 or so guys up on these bleachers. And I'm walking up, and they've got a microphone set up, and the guy's introducing me in Spanish. And I started looking at those guys on the bleachers, and they were all Latino. And I asked him, I said, "Well, do they speak English?" And he said, "No." I said, "Well, what am I going to sing? I don't know any songs in Spanish." And he said, "Well, they'll like whatever you do. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." They speak a little bit of English. And so I'm trying to think of a song I could do for them. And all of a sudden, one of them yells out, "Freddie Fender!" Has anybody ever heard of Freddie Fender? Really? Well, I knew this Freddie Fender song, so I sing. If he bring you happiness, then I wish you both the best. It's your happiness that matters most of all. But if he ever leaves you blue, just remember I love you, and I'll be there before the next teardrop falls. Well, they went berserk. And I thought, man, I'm doing good. Then I remembered the next verse was in Spanish. And I didn't know it. They're all looking at me waiting for that verse. I just made something up. Enchilito. Tostada. Enchilada. Saluda. Hot tamale. Frivole. Nacho chip. Tortilla. Taco Bell. Jalapenos. Hot as Buenos Dias. Guacamole. Menudo. Más que nunca, Señor, yo te amo. Hoy más que nunca, Señor, te necesito. Hoy más que nunca, Señor, que necesite. Te amo hoy más que nunca, Señor. The English goes like this. More than ever before, Lord, I love you. More than ever before, Lord, I need you. More than ever before, I've got to tell you I love you now more than ever before. Te amo hoy más que nunca, Señor. Johnny Cash, you know, my band was called Brush Arbor, and back in the early 70s, we won 2 Academy of Country Music Awards for Touring Band of the Year, Vocal Group of the Year. And we got to hook up with Johnny Cash for a week and go on tour with him, and we opened the show for him all through California here. And I remember standing off to the side of the stage and watching him after we did our thing, and we'd go off to the side and watch Johnny sing. You know. One of his songs that he sang was Ghost Riders in the Sky. Well, I just said to him, whoa. Well, I know a different version of that song, and I'd like to do it for you, and it goes like this. A chicken farmer took a walk out on his farm one day. He paused beside the coop as he went along his way, when all at once a rotten egg hit him in the eye. It was a sight he dreaded, those chickens in the sky. Those chickens in the sky. He'd been a chicken farmer since he was 24, working for the colonel for 30 years or more, killing the whole chickens and sending them to fry. Now they want revenge, those chickens in the sky. Everybody now, come on. Those chickens in the sky. Their faces black and shiny and their eyes were blazing red. They didn't have no feathers 'cause these chickens all were dead. They picked that farmer up and he died by the claw. They cooked him extra crispy and ate him with coleslaw. One more time now, everybody. Those chickens in the sky. All right, big ending, here we go. Chickens in the sky. I really am sober. But anyway.
Come on, man.
I got one more song I'm going to do for you, but no, it's before I get into kind of a little testimony thing. Many, many years ago when I was 23, I was married to a widow who was pretty as could be. This widow had a grown-up daughter who had hair red. My father fell in love with her and soon those two were wed. This made my dad my son-in-law and really changed my life. My daughter was my mother 'cause she was my father's wife. To complicate the matter, even though it brought me joy, I soon became the father of a bouncing baby boy. That little baby then became a brother-in-law to Dad. And that made him my uncle, and it made me kinda sad. 'Cause if he was my uncle, then that also made him brother to the widow's grown-up daughter, who of course was my stepmother. My father's wife then had a son that kept him on the run. He then became my grandchild 'cause he was my daughter's son. My wife, she is my mother's mother, and that makes me blue. Although she is my wife, now she's my grandmother too. And if my wife is my grandmother, then I'm her grandchild. And every time I think of that, it really drives me wild. Now I have become the strangest case you ever saw. As husband of my own grandmother, I'm my own grandpa. Well, I'm my own grandpa. Sing with me. Well, I'm my own grandpa. It sounds funny, I know, but it really is so. I'm my own grandpa. Thank you.
Margaret.
I don't even know if I can remember that song. But, I was, wow. I want to tell you how I got sober, or the day I got sober. And I got kicked out of my band because I was drinking and doing drugs. And so I lost that opportunity to become, and actually it probably saved my life. Because I was getting high with guys in Nashville, smoking weed and just popping pills and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And so the band, they voted me out. And so for years and years, I tried to get back into the music business, but it just got worse. And I thought, well, if I get out of the bars and get away from the booze and the women and all that, then maybe I could have a chance to stay sober, because I would go to meetings and I would stay sober for 30 days or so, and then I'd go back out again, then I'd go stay sober for another 17 days, and I'd go out. And I even marked it on my calendar, I was so proud of my calendar because I was sober. And I'd get up to about 83, there we go, off and running. So I decided to try to get another occupation besides playing music. So I became an iron worker. We have any iron workers in here, or anybody that worked with the Iron Workers Union? Well, I didn't know that iron workers like to drink and do drugs. So that didn't help me a whole lot. And I was up on the 9th floor of a high-rise in Ontario, California. This was 1990. And it was right across from the airport. They was building this hotel or something. I forget what it was, office building or something. So I'm punking for a welder. That means I'm carrying all of his cables around for him, dragging them while he's doing the welding. And we sat down, we had a break, and he pulled out a joint. He says, you want to smoke a little? And I said, well, yeah, sure. So we lit up a joint. We're sitting there on the 9th floor, and we're smoking a joint. And the foreman comes by, and he fires me. He says, go get your check, go down to the trailer. I don't think he fired the welder because he needed him. But, so anyway, I go down to the trailer and I get my severance check, and I walk over to my old car, my old clunker that I was driving around. I had a lot of old clunkers in my day. I don't know about you, but just barely run. And this one was an old, I think, I forget even the model, but the power windows wouldn't roll up. They were broken. So I had me kind of a convertible kind of thing, But, so I'm walking with my severance check down to my car, and I look inside and I see a 12-pack of Bud. And I go, it's like, I felt, that's my friend. I get in. I drank 4 of them on the way to work that morning. And so I get in and I light up a cigarette, and I'm, backing out of the driveway, and I open up one of them Budweisers, and as I'm driving out, I spill it in my lap. It looks like I wet my pants, so I'm driving out of the parking lot, and I get out onto the Interstate 10, and I'm headed toward Los Angeles. And I didn't know where I was going. I had the day off because I got fired. So I'm just I'm driving down, making the most of the time, smoking my cigarette, and all of a sudden I remembered that I had some speed. I don't know if it was speed or cocaine. I can't remember, but one or the other. And it was in a little Ziploc bag. I never used the needle because I think I'd be dead if I'd have used the needle. But I always snorted. I just had a little spoon. my little Ziploc bag, and I pulled it out. Now here I'm driving down the freeway 65. I don't know how fast I was going, but the windows wouldn't roll up, remember? And so I'm trying to snort this powder up my nose, and it ends up all over my face. And in the process of that, I smelled marijuana. I thought, I didn't light up a joint. What's going on? I looked down at my cigarette, had set fire to my roaches. And they were all falling out on top of the empty beer bottles that I had thrown in the floor, that I was kicking around, trying to. And as I looked up in the rearview mirror, and I noticed that through the powder on my face, there were a couple of tear tracks. And I thought, am I crying? I didn't know I was crying. And all of a sudden, I felt like crying. It was just built up inside of me. And I had to actually pull off the freeway, and I remember pulling into a 7-Eleven parking lot, and this was somewhere, I think, in Burbank. And I pulled off because I had turned off onto the 5 heading north. And I pulled in, and I just started crying my eyes out. Just crying. And I didn't know why. And I remember saying, God, please help me. I remember saying that. And all of a sudden, I began to kind of gather myself, and I sat there for a few minutes, and I felt like I'd just taken a bath. And all of a sudden, bing, a little light came on. Kurt Freeman was his name. And Kurt just happened to be the executive director of 2 of the largest rehab centers in the county of Los Angeles. And I knew Kurt, and I was his friend. And he just lived up the freeway in Castaic Junction. So I thought, I knew where I was going then. So I drove on up, got back in my car, drove up to his house, and I pulled up. Now remember, I still had powder on my face, and it looked like I wet my pants, and because I had the beer I'd spilled in my lap. And I got out of my car, and he was just getting out of his car with his briefcase, he's a hard man to catch. And so he's walking toward his front door, and I meet him on the sidewalk. And he looks at me. He said, man, what happened to you? And I just looked at him, and I said, probably the most important words I've ever said. I said, Kurt, I need help. He said, you sure do. And then he said something really strange. He said, will you fire your mind and let me think for you? And I thought, fire your mind. He says, yeah, you don't think for a while. I think for you. You just go stay with my friends over here for a couple of days, dry out a little bit, and I'll see what I can do. Now, it normally takes a long time to get in these places. Some of you know that. You have to wait and wait. 3 days later, I go into Acton. Used to be Acton Rehab out in toward Palmdale. It's still there? Yeah. Is it still a rehab?
Yeah.
And I remember on the way out there, I said, what about my car? And they looked back at me. I'm in the back seat, and they said, you don't have a car anymore. I said, well, what about my girlfriend? Because I had a girlfriend. He said, you don't have a girlfriend anymore. Well, what about my job? Well, you don't have a job anymore. Finally, he turned around and he says, sir, he said, you are starting over. And I looked at him like, what's he talking about? So I get out there, and I get checked into Acton Rehab on February 7th, 1990. They wouldn't let me have my guitar. I hid behind my guitar. That would distract people from who I really was. It was a tool I used for that. I didn't even know it. He wouldn't let me have my guitar. They'd let me bring it in. All I have is a little sack, paper sack of, I forget what was in it now, but it wasn't much. Soap and a rag, I think. And I checked in, and About 2 weeks later, they brought me a guitar, and I went out under a tree. As soon as I grabbed that guitar, I went out and sat under a tree and wrote this song. I'm having trouble playing because I have carpal tunnel. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's a condition of the nerves in the arm, and so I'm having a. You got to understand, I'm the kind of man with what they call addictive behavior. I like to get high, but I know I could die, so I've been searching for a savior. Well, all my junk was gone, and I was on my own, looking for a place to be. The local rehab said they would give me a stab to get back to reality. I got those detox blues in my rehab shoes, trying to get my head on straight. Well, I'm gonna be fine when I can renew my mind, and I'm hoping that I ain't too late. 'Cause I've been wandering around in a misty haze, working on steps 1 and 2. Feels good to be clean, but it can sure make you mean when you got those detox blues. I made a lot of new friends, and I was making amends, writing down what's wrong with me. You know, that took me a while because that wasn't my style. Then the Holy Spirit helped me see that if I'm gonna get right, I gotta put up a fight. So I won't want the booze or the you. Sure feels strange when you're making a change and you got them detox blues. Here we go. I got the detox blues. Come on, my rehab shoes. Trying to get my head on straight. Well, I'm gonna be fine when I can renew my mind, and I'm hoping that I ain't too late. 'Cause I've been wandering around in a misty haze, working on steps 1 and 2. It's good to be clean, but it can sure make you mean when you got those detox blues. I don't know about you, but the first couple of weeks of sobriety, I kind of got angry. I just felt angry. And I was sitting in the back. We had a speaker meeting, and I'm sitting in the back, leaning my chair up against the wall with the rest of the guys that were angry. Well, who we got now? We got some speaker again. Oh boy. It still hadn't dawned on me what was happening. And then this cowboy comes in. Now, I've always admired cowboys. John Wayne was my favorite, man. And so when this guy came in with a cowboy hat, he kind of, oh, this ought to be interesting. Well, he comes in and they introduce him and everything. And as soon as he gets ready to speak, he takes off his cowboy hat. He said, "All right, you assholes." And I just went, everybody just kind of went, "What did you just say?" He says, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." And we're all just like, he says, "I just left the bed of my little grandson who's dying of leukemia. And he may not last the night." And he says, "But I made a commitment that I would put my sobriety first.
That's right.
And I would never turn down an opportunity to share my experience, strength, and hope. So I came out here to talk to you assholes." And I got to tell you, I listened to every word that man said. And when he was done, I got it. And I walked up to him and I said, Al, that was his name. I said, would you be my sponsor? He says, for a little while, I'll see how you do. See if you can take instruction. And he was my sponsor for the next few weeks. He said, I want you to volunteer. I want you to do some things. He says, volunteer to run a meeting, secretary of meeting. That's what I was trying to say. When he came back, I said, I'm secretary in 2 meetings. Man, I did everything I could. I was wiping tables. I was just doing everything he told me to do. He was trying to humble me. And I'll tell you what, I was in Acton for 3 months. And then my girlfriend showed up, and she wanted me to leave. She wanted me to take her to Atlanta, for her daughter's house. Well, I thought, well, I've spent my 3 months here. I'm ready to, I think I'm okay. So I left with her left Acton, and I went with my girlfriend to drive her to Atlanta. And then I was supposed to go to Beacon House. And they were holding a bed for me there. So when I get back to Atlanta with this woman, all of a sudden she says, I want to marry you now. And all of a sudden I'm pacing the floor. I'm wanting to drink again. And I'm wanting to use again because this is too much for me. I'm not ready. So I called Beacon House. They said, where are you? I said, Georgia. They hung up. I told that girlfriend I need some money to get back to California. I'm not ready for this. So she, bless her heart, she gave me enough money to get a bus trip back to Oklahoma to my mama's house. And my mama put me on a plane and I flew to California. And the next day I walked into Beacon House. I said, I'm here. He says, I thought you was in Georgia. And I said, I'm here. He said, well, you'll just have to sleep on the couch. We don't have a room for you. And I stayed there on that couch for 3 days. And finally they said, okay, we got a room for you. I stayed at Beacon House for another 3 months. And then I decided 6 months wasn't enough.
No, that's right.
6 months wasn't enough. So I stayed around and I went to college down here at the community college. And I went and I stayed in Beacon House for another 2 years in the association and sober living. Then when I got my sanity back, I met a woman, Snow White. Didn't know she had 7 dwarfs. I've been married 4 times. And none of them lasted they all ended in divorce. Because honestly, folks, I don't know how to have a relationship. I don't know how to. I'm trying to have a relationship with God. And that's going pretty good, but you know what? I still struggle. I'll be honest with you, I still struggle with pornography sometimes. I'm not pretending to be perfect up here. I'm one of you. I'm a pastor, and I'm admitting that. I say I'm a pastor, not really. I mean, I got hired to be a pastor, but I really don't think I would qualify for that. But I do know this. I'm recovering from alcohol and drugs. And it's one day at a time. Every time I say I'll never drink again, I end up with whiskey dripping off my chin. No matter how I tried, I couldn't last for long. Well, then I heard somebody tell me, son, you're working this thing all wrong. Just take it one day at a time. Mom, you can help me. just take it one day at a time. 'Cause if you swear off forever, you can sure enough lose your mind. Well, I knew that this was something that I had to try, and suddenly I noticed I was staying dry. Sometimes I even had to cut my day in two. Well, it sure made a difference in my personal point of view. I'm taking one day at a time. 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 If you swear off forever, you can sure. I do that when I go into women's prison. I get about 3 girls to come up here and be my background singers. And I put them off to the side, and I teach them that. One day at a time. And they always get it wrong. But that's... I take it one day at a time. Yeah, I take it one day at a time. 'Cause if you swear off forever, you can sure enough lose your mind. Now when I start to thinking I can drink or use, Jesus gives me power not to light that fuse. No need to worry if I'm building on sinking sand. Yesterday is over and tomorrow is in his hand. Here we go, sing with me. I'm taking one day at a time. One day at a time. If you swear off forever, you can sure enough lose your mind. One more time, let's do it. I'm taking one day at a time. Yeah, I'm taking one day at a time. If you swear off forever, you sure enough lose your mind. How much time do I have? How much time do I have?
Kenny, you got 10.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
10 minutes.
5 more minutes.
5 more minutes.
10.
I've been searching. Y'all listening? I've been searching all my life for some peace of mind. I looked for it in alcohol and the cocaine line. Now I've been brought out of darkness and I've learned how to live in the light. 'Cause I've come to believe in an almighty God who gives me the power to fight. When I came to believe, I began to receive the wonderful grace of God. There's just no way I would be here today but for the grace of God. I kept searching, but all in vain. 'Cause how can a blind man see? The problem was not with other men, but with me. Now all that emptiness deep inside has been filled with the light of His love. All that I am and all that I have comes from the Father above. When I came to believe, I began to receive the wonderful grace of God. And there's just no way I would be here today but for the grace of God. I want to do one more song for you. I've got to do this one because this is one of my favorites, and I've got a little story to go with it. This, my third wife, we didn't want to be with each other, but we didn't know how to leave each other. Ever be in a relationship like that where or you know you need to get out of it, but you're afraid to. You're just like, well, you kind of hang on to each other. So one night I was in Oklahoma City, and I had gone. I was working in Oklahoma City in a little bar for $35 a night, and that they paid me cash every night after work, and that's what we lived on. We lived in somebody's garage. She dropped me off to work, and after work, I'm waiting out in the parking lot for her to come get me, along with my guitar player. And she, time's going, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, she doesn't show up. 4 o'clock, finally, I said, man, Bobby, would you take me over to that garage and see where she's at? So he took me over there, and everything was gone. Everything out of the garage was gone. She was gone. My truck was gone. Our dog was gone. Everything was gone, except me. And so I said, man, Bobby drove me around. I went over and spent the night at his, his couch, and he drove me around the next day, and we looked all over and asked everybody that knew us and knew her that where she couldn't be found anywhere. So I called Mama. Mama was 100 miles east. I said, Mama, she's gone. Mama said, good. I didn't like her anyway. I said, Mama, she took everything. She took my car. She took everything. She says, well, son, I got some money for you, and you can have my car. You just get over here. And I said, because I was going to go back to California and get my ironworking job back. Or try to, anyway. So I'm going to end with this little song called Mama's. Well, I'll tell you about it. Well, I was down on the corner, talking on the telephone. Didn't have cell phones back then. Well, I had just called up my mama. I said, my woman done up and gone. Well, now, Mama, she's gone. She left me high and dry. Right now, I sure could use some wheels. She said, well, son, that's okay. Some money's on its way, and you can have my old Oldsmobile. The windshield wipers were upside down. The vinyl roof weren't there no more. The air conditioner only worked on defrost, and I'll be darned if I can close the door. There's been times when I've been down, but I can tell you right now how I feel. I know it was all she had, and I sure was glad to be in Mama's old Oldsmobile. Well, I made it on out to Flagstaff, across the California line. This buddy of mine said he would follow me out, and he was just a quarter-mile behind. 40 miles east of Bakersfield, the motor just up and down. But she got me there, and my friends, I swear, I will never forget that ride. Yeah, because the windshield wipers were upside down, the vinyl roof weren't there no more. The air conditioner only worked on the frost, and all they wanted before we closed the door. There's been times when I've been down, but I can tell you right now how I feel. I know it was all she had, and I sure was glad to be Mama's old Oldsmobile. Yeah, I was driving around that other town in my Mama's old Oldsmobile. Don't give up. Stay with it. I'm going to back and forth, singing programs until finally the goes along. I hope you're good. I'll be singing for you. And thank you Roxanne, thank you, staff, and everybody, thank you, all of you, for allowing me this time to share and experience something hope with you. God bless you, and I pray you stay sober, and remember that it's what a great life it is in sobriety. God bless you.